Betsy and Thomas here for the American Intelligence Media, and we had so much to say from the last video. We cut it off because now we're going to look at the Democrats and what is happening to this party. I tell you, Thomas, I think this is the end of the Democrat Party. Are we looking at an extinction level event for the Dems?
Yes, it's the 2020 election. Or as I like to call it, Demopocalypse.
Listen, I think it's going to happen before the election. Who are they going to have standing after these Democrat debates to go up against Trump?
There may never be another Democratic majority in either the Senate or the House. And as a MAGA candidate president for the first four and second four, and then there'll be 8 more after that, keeps appointing judges into these crooked courts, federal courts, and appoints Supreme Court judges, it's all going to lean towards the Republican, but not just Republican, because the Republican Party is over too. There's the MAGA Republican Party, or CAG. So it continues. Why? Because if you stand against Trump, you need to get out of his party. He is now the Republican Party. So Mitt Romney hit the road. Nobody actually voted you in. You cheated because you and your son control voting machines in 17 states. So everything
the citizens are at fault here. They didn't do anything to go and look at those election boxes that they rigged with Optech software. I mean, no, where was anybody doing anything?
That's right. These elections, particularly federal elections, are in the hands of the voters. And so we need to take control and go back to paper ballots and then have no ballots after the cutoff time. Absolutely no ballot harvesting because those... And after the census, you see, the extinction event is occurring with the census because the gerrymandering going on that has already been reversed in the federal courts in some cases in some states. The gerrymandering that went on was Eric Holder going state to state and gerrymandering the districts so that it would be more inclined to the Demon Rat Party. And basically what he used was the old Obama money from his candidacy that went into his new organization. I forget what it's called. But anyway, there's a lot of people involved in this, and they are on the street, and they are working it. So, gerrymandering is one of the big issues of the 2020 census. Now, what's going to happen is, because the word has gotten out that facial recognition is here, whether you like it or not. It started in where? All the Democrat major centers in big cities.
But literally it started when you got a driver's license and you gave up your ID to the state. Now your picture is on their file.
And that's the point. Many immigrants, I call them invaders, as you do too, they get someone's social security number, or they don't even do that. In California, they simply get a driver's license and then they can vote. Unfortunately for them, the census is going to now compare all of the federal agencies, all the state agencies, and every speck of information we have on anybody and coordinate it and actually see who's a citizen, who's not. Thank you, Eric Schmidt, for your donation to the U.S. Digital Service that has caused that to happen. And Trump is writing an executive order to that effect that has already made the statement all federal agencies will now report to the Commerce what it is that they have as their statistics. So, the pictures on your driver's license in California and New York that usually got you to vote, that can now be cross-checked. So, if you go to vote, you've committed a crime. So, sorry, all of you invaders. Sorry, illegal aliens who are playing like they're citizens who vote. If you vote, you now can then be taken to court for your crime, be ordered even without you being there. There's ways to do that. Not going to use the legal terms, but if you're not there, they can still say, sorry, deport them. And that's what's happening to 1 million people right now. So when you vote illegally by using nothing more than your state or city license, your motor vehicle registration license, which has your picture on it, can now be cross-checked. and it's going to be cross-checked.
Yes, it will. And they'll know exactly where you live. And they'll come and they'll pick you up in their ICE shirts. And you're going to be deported because you are not here legally and you need to get back at the back of the line. And that's how they're going to find you. Why do you think they're offering you driver's license? You really think it's to give you the vote? No, it's so that they can further control you.
When Michael Pence did his study, and they got the information back from 17 states, I believe it was, and then the other states brought a lawsuit to stop him from simply saying, let's see how many illegal votes there were. He was, the estimate was between 3 to 5 million at that point from 17 states, and the big Democrat states, Demon Rat states, had yet to report in. Okay? So, if we want to simply use what the FBI has from the 22 million documented invaders.
But is there anybody at the FBI that actually works for America? Or are they all criminal thugs?
Well, that's a very good question. And we've seen only a few white hats come out in the FBI.
Really? I haven't seen anyone in the FBI come out with diddly squat.
There were things like from behind closed door reports, people coming out with their own alibis and confessions, testimony in grand juries, and before there have been things that have come out that have indicated that there have been a few.
It's the Federal Blackmailing Institute. Their job is to keep everybody blackmailed so that they can control us.
And nobody at the top, though. You're right, Betsy. Nobody at the top.
Right at the top.
Nobody at the top. Nobody in the senior executive service who's a general of that agency, who is in fact a paramilitary person working for a union that is non-constitutional. And they are their own group, and they are the shadow government, and they are as real can be. We can name them, look in the plum book. But point is, the Democrat Extinction event happens at the 2020 when the Republicans take back the House and have even a stronger Senate, and of course Trump is reelected, because then that means that the next 4 years after that, which will be 8, will be whatever candidate continues what he's doing, because you can't get better numbers for economy, for unemployment, for employment, for growth, for anything, for consumer confidence, for trade, for any. You cannot. Now, the lies they see, here's what amazing. They tell you we're running a deficit. Lies. All lies. How about all the money that he has saved that hasn't even been reworked back into that budget, which are trillions? So we are not running a deficit. Now, are we running up our bill at the Federal Reserve? Of course we can and should and absolutely should, because we should go simply belly up with them. Let them go bankrupt because of their corrupt theft from America, and let's seize their assets first, audit them, and then let them go bankrupt and put the power of the U.S. Treasury back in the U.S. Treasury instead of the U.S. Fed.
Okay, newsflash. So as you're talking, I'm looking at something come through, and I'm so excited about it. It's a headline that it's a California poll. Okay, so think about that. I mean, like it's propaganda,
California
right?
poll.
It's a California poll. And they now say, this is just out right now, July 16th at 2:08 p.m., that Elizabeth Warren surges past Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, and Golden State. Now, what's so great about this, there's no way that California poll would put an East Coaster ahead of their very own Kamala Harris. Oh, maybe the slave issue is just too much for Kamala to handle, or the fact that she's ineligible for being president. People, I think we are witnessing a takedown of Kamala Harris.
Certainly could be. And
by the Democrats.
And Beto O'Rourke flagellating himself, with his cat of nine tails over his ancestors owning slaves, is nothing compared to what, if you've already given them a taste, is going to come with what we're going to hear from Michael McKibben today. Breaking news.
I'm telling you, it's so big. Not only, the research is showing, not only was her family slave owners, and we have that list of hundreds of slaves, Hamilton Brown was like the slave trader. He traded slaves, thousands. He was an attorney, and when he couldn't get paid in money, he demanded his payment in slaves. This is where Kamala comes from, and it makes me really want to ask that question, and we have to really vet this woman. Is she carrying on the family business of human trafficking? I mean, she is in California. We need to ask those questions of Kamala. But it looks like the Democrats are taking her out because maybe they don't want to answer it. And then let's go to these four.
Wait a second.
Go ahead.
Wait. Kamala Harris wouldn't be for open borders unless she was for homeless people, and the homeless people are human trafficked because they keep disappearing from California. Where are they, folks?
Yeah, and she learned from her old grandpappy. I mean, I know he was several generations before she got there, but, you know, if your family business is lucrative, you usually pass it down to your kin.
Adam Schiff, Pelosi, Maxine, Dianne Feinstein, Kamala. Where do all those people go? And why do you beg for more? And why do you give them free medical insurance, but you can't give them a place to live? You can't treat them decently.
Well,
they
it's
live
like
on the
cattle. Because if you have cattle, you want your cattle to be good and strong and healthy. That's why they get the health insurance. But you don't care where they live.
You notice that when they clear out those communities, the people don't even take their tents. Where do they go? Did anybody ever see any of them leave? Did anybody ever see an exodus from a tent city before they come in and they have to then disinfect it? Untold amounts of money have to be spent on disinfecting any of these areas where these tent cities sit up. And we know that in some cities, there'll be 50,000 in an area. They come in, they clean it out overnight, and those people are gone. Where did they go?
And so what we have now is the Democrat Party. The face of it is no longer Nancy Pelosi. It looks like the faces are Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and she's from New York, liberal, left. Woo. Ilhan Omar from Minnesota. Ayanna Pressley, and she's from Massachusetts. And Rashida Tlaib, also a very liberal left, Michigan. Okay, these are the Democrats. They stand for socialism, communism, open borders, a murder of babies, of infants, of fetuses, child rape, pedophilia. The list goes on. This is just the face of the devil.
This is the Democratic platform. You just mentioned all the planks, except for sniffing young children and trying to molest them in front of the camera, which is now the new Joe Biden standard also. But with Kamala Harris, yes, her Hamilton Brown was full-blooded Irish, and he became the man who invented the Irish slavery. And his ship, well, we'll go into that later, never stopped running Irish slaves after the black slaves were outlawed in 1833. We mentioned this before on our videos. So the point is, you can't get any worse than Kamala Harris, and then let's look at the modern day. Folks, ask some questions. Why would the governor of California, who's in one emergency after the next, who's of course a relative of the Browns, a relative of Pelosi, why would Devin Newsom say, come on across the border, all you criminals, I'm going to give you free medical insurance, when he knows that his state has been bankrupted because of the medical insurance for just the true immigrant workers, the ones who actually are the ones out in the field doing the work, not the ones who are actually our enemies, working age men coming from places where our enemies are. And so why would anybody in the governorship invite that? Because it's the end of the Democratic Party as we know it. It is their last-ditch attempt to offer the carrot to the donkey, and they're never going to... The donkey is woke up. The donkey is woke, and the donkey, because of Trump, Trump maybe had to hit the donkey in the head with a wooden plank like my grandfather once did, and then the donkey did exactly what Grandpa wanted. But the point was... the Democratic Party has promised everything. They've never delivered on anything, and now it sticks out like a sore thumb. The emperor's new clothes are seen to be nothing. He is naked, and Pelosi is the most naked of all. And Schumer, look how they have been exposed. And why have they been exposed? Because all of their lies of what they've always promised, that was the basis of the Democrat Party, the Demon Rat Party, had to go so far left because the intelligence community told Hillary, before the 2016 election, in the Paradigm of Progress, their intelligence report, she had to go completely full left, full on socialism. And if she didn't, she couldn't compete against somebody who said the words radical Islamic terrorism and talked about capitalism and talked about nationalism, which Trump did. He won. Hillary lost. She didn't go far enough left. That's why Bernie was there. So that Bernie could keep testing the waters to see how many people would come out and believe the lies of Bernie. Bernie's ideas only work for 1 year. Once you tax the rich, they're no longer rich. There'd be no one left to tax. So it's the stupidest thing ever. But people believe it. So that's socialism that goes into the worst form of fascism, which is the worst form of racism, xenophobia, misogyny, and everything else. So the Democrat Party, the Demon Rat Party, is who they are calling Trump to be. They call him a racist because he says that the lady who, Ilhan Omar, married her brother to come into this country. First she came in on chain immigration to stay here. She married her brother, then divorced him. Now she's here illegally, and then she runs for office in a place where the Somalis were given refugee status and have now taken over the politics because they're all clustered together. This is what Sharia law tells Muslims to do. You establish your community, and from there you reach out and you take over the banks because you don't believe in loans for houses, so all your money comes from previous Muslims who give you and buy you your house. Did you know that? Anybody know that out there? Yeah, the biggest Muslim conclave in America is only a few miles from my house. And I have worked in the communities, in their schools, which are all illegal. And if you look at Fethullah Gulen, you will see that even the charter schools are completely rigged and billions of dollars are going to Muslims for them to continue their indoctrination to hate Americans in charter schools. We've already reported on that, of course. So the point is, you have, in that district, you have, what's her name? Rashid Tlaib. Mm-hmm. And she took $46,000 out of her political money donated by George Soros and gave it to herself. She filed out of district illegally. She took illegal money during the election. And the first thing she did is used foul language to assault the president and basically say that she believes in taking down our president. Call it impeachment, call it whatever, but using foul language in front of children on the night that she won. You got Ilhan Omar, who is a racist beyond belief. Now, you can't be more of a misogynist than an Islamic person, an Islamic man. Okay? There's no such thing.
Well, she has to abide by Sharia law. So that means she's against most of the amendments in our Constitution. So why is she there? But beyond that, she's an illegal alien because of the way that she fraudulently got into this country, and that needs to be taken care of by ICE while they're going around grabbing all these other people.
And what we're seeing here is the Democrat lies of their virtue signaling coming back on them in full force. It's called karma. You tell everybody that you're going to accept everybody in our country with open borders and all of their whatevers, and then you accept Sharia law. How many wives did Ilhan Omar's brother have at that time? Is it illegal for a person to come in this country and have 9 wives? Of course it is. So why would we allow them? We allow them as refugees to come in with 9 wives and 27 children, the last one that I had reported on. One of the few that can be found after they come into this country as refugees. But the point is, when these districts get overran by the kindness of America to say that a whole group of people, whether it's from El Salvador, Honduras, Guatemala, whether it's from Pakistan, whether it's from Somalia, whether it's where, it does not matter. When a whole group of them come and they do not leave behind their old laws, and then they want the police not to come into their areas, and then you have to have Muslim-trained Sharia law police in Britain all over the place, and now you're actually seeing that in some places in America? Unbelievable.
Well, it's not compatible with the way we live here and our Constitution. And so they need to go back to where they feel more comfortable in their Muslim countries and under Sharia law. We're just not having it here in the United States.
No.
And this Sharia creep, women walking around in their hijabs and everything in places where elected officials are, I take great offense to that. This is a building, the Congress that she shows up in, and she's got that old rag on her head. And what that rag says when she's in Congress is that she is ruled by Sharia law, not the law of the United States of America. And that's what I oppose. Not that she has an apparel on her head, but why she wears it and the symbology of it, where she wears it. She
becomes the biggest promoter of misogyny in Congress.
Yes.
Period.
Yes.
It should not be allowed because there's laws against it.
And
You're not allowed to wear headgear in the Congress.
And
period.
And Rashida Tlaib, she's a Muslim. She has to abide by Sharia law. Well, how come she didn't have her raghead on? Because why? Because they also have a law that says you can lie to your opponents and let them think you're one of them. And then when they're off guard, you grab them and nab them and take them down.
What's Sauer's first name?
Sauer?
Yeah, CAIR, the group that represents the Muslims in America. Yes, their number one spokesperson is a woman, right? Uh-huh. And she always has a hijab on. Does she not understand that that is the biggest insult to people who have fought for women's suffrage, for women's rights, that it's the most misogynist thing you could possibly ever do is make somebody against their will, and I don't care that these people believe that it's a good thing, or then they give other excuses for why it's on their head.
They cut off the clitorises of their little girls.
Thank you very much.
I mean, hello. Are American women, you stand for that? That is mutilation of your sexual organ, and it's done on these little girls. They don't have a choice, just like Joe Biden and Bill Clinton going out and raping children. You know, the children don't have a choice.
You know, I believe in traditional religions, especially the core that runs through all of them, the golden thread. And even there's no such thing as a religion that doesn't really believe in certain principles.
Like
and I've studied the Quran.
Others.
Yes, that is it. That is the golden rule, and it's there in all religions. But the point is, when you believe in Sharia law, you are believing in man-made law. That is not a revelation. And I'm not going to get into the Quran and all those things. The point is, Sharia law, or a fundamentalist approach to Sharia law, is not coincident with our U.S. Constitution and our Bill of Rights. And neither is it with our laws of marriage, our laws, any of it. So they are not coincident. And since they are not, when you come into this country, you would have to abnegate your relationship and your commitment to Sharia law, and then make a commitment to constitutional law and the civil rights. And the vows that have been made in America for a long time are always made upon the Bible. You know that we have people in office in the intelligence community who refuse to take a vow on the Bible. They take it on the Quran.
Oh, you mean like John Brennan
Yes.
and his Muslim rug in his office?
Yes.
And he's running the CIA, and we already know it's corrupt as hell. That John Brennan,
Yeah.
who then gave his position to Gina Haspel,
Yeah,
who was
and
really over there in London working to overthrow the President of the United States. I mean, really, it's so apparent to us out here in America. I just don't understand why this is continuing on.
The Democrats invite our enemies in because they think that's somehow virtue signaling that's love or acceptance or whatever. No, that isn't what that is. Imran Awan and the man who got him into the position to be the worst espionage attack through the Democrats, through the House of Representatives, through Nancy Pelosi particularly, and through Andre Carson, who got Imran Awan SCIF access, the highest clearance anyone can get, when he didn't even have a clearance to begin with. So he skipped from no background check to SCIF clearance because of Andre Carson. Oh, that's right, he's the first full Muslim who is committed to the Quran and not to our Constitution and everything else. He got another Muslim, Imran Awan, to get SCIF clearance. Think of that. And then there's also 2 other Muslims involved in that, partial Muslims. But the point is that when we see the Muslim influence in our Congress, it's not pretty. It's the dimpocalypse. But it's okay, because Pelosi, the second that Trump got elected, I would make the joke, if she says that the apocalypse has come one more time, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to fall down laughing, because she's of course senile. She can't even read what's on the paper. And when she stops reading what's on the paper, she always goes insane. So she talks about crazy things. That's the reason that Trump said, oh, no, I'm happy to have Nancy Pelosi be the head of the House, because she's a dimwit. She can't even handle the junior members to her group who are kicking her rear and changing the Democrat Party into the far-left socialist, fascist Democrat Party. They are a party unto themselves. She needs to kick them out, give them no money. And remember, AOC was trained by a handler who did advertisement, brought in all these people. He chose a woman of foreign descent who had a nice look to her, And that's how she got elected. Before that, she was a barista girl, okay? And before that, she's an idiot, obviously, who couldn't even pass her college classes and doesn't know anything about the U.S. government. And who was it that trained her trainer? The head of the Young Turks in America, which is one of the Venetian groups we've talked about. The Italian Venetian infiltration. And the Young Turks, anywhere they go, always dissent in chaos, revolution. And it's the Young Turks who, of course, Erdogan hates. The Young Turks, there's a number of these groups. And the head of it, literally the head of it, this is the worst type of fascism that AOC comes in with. The Green New Deal, that's nothing more than democratic feedback on fascist steroids coming back to bite them in the rear to be the extinction event of the Democratic Party. They all signed on to it. That's the end of all of them. They're all signing on to her socialism. They're signing on to bashing Israel. They're signing on to supporting Muslims. There's of any sort whatsoever, not just good Muslims, but, radical Islamic fascist terrorists right in our own Congress. What else? They name calling, simple name calling, so that anybody gets to call Trump a name, but if he says anything that sounds like a name calling, they accuse him of it, and then the very people who are that come out and calling that. So you see this group of 4 junior Democrats coming in and taking over the party because they have no moral structure, they have no platform, they have no planks. It's all anti-Trump, period. They know they're facing an extinction event, and they know they're facing it now. They should have got more seats in the House in the way that politics usually works. It's almost a guarantee with the way politics works that the House will go Republican, no matter what. No matter what, it doesn't matter. There's patterns that happen. They're not going to lose the Senate. They're going to gain seats in the Senate, and he's going to be reelected. That's a fact. Anyone who would believe the polls and not is stupid. You have to laugh at those polls, okay? Just like Trump is making fun of them. Read his tweets. It's his whole campaign plan. He's annihilating every one of them before the real event comes, because whoever they elect can't stand up for Trump. So what do they say at the end of the articles? Hillary can still run. She will probably be nominated from the floor if they don't have a strong candidate, or they will announce from the floor of the Democratic National Convention, that she will be the vice presidential candidate because she owes hundreds of countries payback for the donations of billions of dollars to the Clinton Foundation while she was the Secretary of State. Her emolument indebtedness is beyond imagination. She has to get in, so she has to have her candidate. So whoever the George Soros chosen candidate is, as far as we know, George Soros chose someone else earlier on. He's not showing his face, so we don't know where it's going. But none of the candidates out there are good. None of them. And so the Dempocalypse is here. The Book of Pelosi is coming to an end. And when it does, it will be an extinction event for the Democratic Party.